live streaming. It's always that sort of anxious moment when is it working, is it not? But since we've upgraded to the customized one, it seems to work every time. So welcome everybody. Let me set the scene. And sorry about last week. I was just explaining to my guest B today that my minor accident, well, it wasn't quite so minor, but I fell and hit my face on a step right there. So I thought I'd broken my nose and lost my 2 front teeth because of the blood. And actually, I've spent the last couple of days like Daffy Duck and letting all the bruising go down and the scabs heal. So I'm absolutely fine. Amazing what a week can do. But yeah, that's why I couldn't attend last week. I was thoroughly shook up. So I'm Dawn Campbell, your host as usual for our Wednesday midweek session, Ask Us Anything About Accreditation. And today in the hot seat, we have the dynamic B Flanagan. Welcome, B. Hello.
Hello, Dawn. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad to be here. And I'm so glad to see you looking so well after just a short week. Fair play to you. That's amazing.
Thank you. It is. It is. The body is amazing.
Amazing.
So before I introduce you properly, let me just remind everybody who's tuning in, and B, we don't tend to get a lot of questions, but I do get a lot of comments saying, oh, that was a really interesting conversation. I didn't know you could be a coach in that subject, or, oh, I didn't know you could be coached on that. So I think people just like to eavesdrop over a cup of coffee, and maybe we're a little bit of a guilty pleasure. I don't know. But whether you are training to become a coach and or mentor, obviously we're both ideally placed to answer your questions if that is something that you're adding to your toolkit, or maybe you're looking to find a professional insured accredited coach and or mentor to support you with your personal and or professional goals. B again is ideally placed to support you with that, particularly in B's case. If you're a parent, you're a teacher, or even if you're a child or adolescent listening into this, because that is B's speciality. Maybe you're already an established coach and this whole accreditation has just kind of passed you by because it's an unregulated market and you're thinking, how is it going to help me make a difference? How is it going to help me get more clients, make more money, increase my profile, open doors? So again, we can both answer those sorts of questions. And then I guess finally, if you're a training provider or a university and you are looking to attract more international students for your next cohort, your next intake, then please do give us your questions. My VA Gillian, as usual, is online. So these calls are live on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So she'll be checking those and will send us any questions. So let me just check that she is there now. Yep, great. Okay, so we'll get questions from her as and when they arrive. But I always like to start these sessions by introducing you and then asking you a great transpersonal coaching question. So B Flanagan is a member of the IAPC&M, has been for many, many years like myself. She is a master coach and she is the founder of What Will Be, Will Be. Absolute genius. So simple, but so good. And I don't know if PALS is still going as well, B, is it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
So you've got PALS, you're the founder of that.
Yes.
And what does PALS stand for? Remind me.
So PALS stands for Positive Assertive Life Skills, Dawn. And that's the program I developed probably about 10 years ago for teenagers and young adults in schools.
Yeah. Okay. And as you can hear by B's dulcet tones, she's in Ireland.
Yes.
And very, very passionate about her environment and the local community, and is a well-known popular figure there. In fact, you once stood for the council, didn't you?
I did. It's coming up to 5 years now because the local elections and the European elections are kicking off again now in June. So it was 5 years ago. And I have to say, Dawn, it was a wonderful, enlightening and character building experience.
Yeah.
That I am so glad I took the opportunity to do it. I learned so many things about myself and about others. And I really didn't think I could get more empowered and stronger I'm more confident than I had already been, and I could. It was amazing.
Good.
Yeah,
And
really
Bee's a
amazing.
trainer as well. You
Yeah,
have trained hundreds of people to become
yeah,
coaches and be the
yeah,
best version of themselves. So Bee has got great all-round experience. So if you've got any of those questions
yeah.
around training or finding out about accreditation, just drop them in the chat boxes and Gillian will keep us posted. But I said I like to start these sessions with a great transpersonal coaching question, B. So the one I'm going to pick for you today is, what makes your heart sing outside of work?
That is such a wonderful question. Thank you. So, what makes my heart sing? I think I would consider myself a very upbeat, positive person, Dawn.
You
And
are.
I
I
have,
can tell that from the background.
yeah, thank you. And I have had many, many life challenges and experiences that have given me the opportunity to expand, I suppose, as a coach and to be able to help, always feeling I'm just one step ahead of my clients, because I think our own personal experiences help us to understand and relate to our clients in a way that's more empathetic, maybe, and understanding. Um, but what really makes my heart sing is laughing, is having fun, is being with people that lift you up, people that see your greatness, but also don't take themselves too seriously. Life is tough. There's lots of challenges. But when we look at them at it, as Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And we can always take a light-hearted approach, even to the most challenging experiences. So for me, of course, my work makes me happy, and working with teenagers in particular, and now primary school kids, they are so at ease. They're so innocent. They're so giving of their attention and their compliments and their love and their happiness. And also their I suppose their anxieties and their fears and their worries. They will be very transparent. That gives me joy to continue on the rest of my day. And I always look at even the most mundane tasks. And we know there's things like laundry, housework, grocery shopping would be one of my challenges. But I try to look at it in a way of setting myself a target of a certain amount of time, listening to maybe a podcast or a YouTube video as I do my shopping, so that I'm actually enjoying that half hour or 45 minutes while I'm doing a task that could otherwise be very challenging and overwhelming.
Yeah. And whereabouts are you based in Ireland, B? Remind me, because it's a long
So
time since you and I've spoken.
Yeah, I'm in County Meath, so I'm just outside Dublin, about maybe 20 minutes from Dublin. It was the country 20 years ago. Well, I thought it was the country 20 years ago when I moved here, but it actually wasn't. It was already built up now at that stage. So I would still be considered a blow-in here, as probably a lot of us are. But it's not too far. So my work is based in Meath, County Louth, and also Dublin. So I've got a wide range of kind of an area for schools and parents and teachers as well. But most of my work, if it's one-to-one, even with young people now, is on Zoom, which is, it is actually really good, because it means my clients don't have to leave the comfort of their own home. They're in a safe environment. We're building rapport, which I know people may not have realized. I know you're a long time Zooming, way before we all caught on to that, but it does allow itself and lend itself to build nice rapport with your clients, doesn't it?
I think so. I mean, as you say, I've used Zoom. Oh, well, must be 2 decades, nearly 2 decades.
Yeah.
Maybe not that long. Maybe it's 15 years. But I'm trying. Yeah, I think it is nearly 2 decades. Yeah,
Yeah,
since
we
I
would have
became an expat. So I came to France
yeah.
21 years ago. So I've been using Zoom since then. And of course, the pandemic sort of catapulted these sorts of platforms into everybody's arena, so that, and I think it takes a lot of the perfectionism away, because you were allowed to have a bit more personality. You might have a child walk past you in the background. You might have a cat pop its head up on the desk.
That's right.
And it just become a lot more relaxed. And I think also, you know, unless I'm representing the IAPC&M, in which case I have the formal background, you know, your background is your branding. It allows your personalities to come through and make you relatable to your clients. That's your altar. I remember it from, I don't know if you added at all to it, but it looks
Oh,
identical
absolutely.
to what I remember.
It does change, you know, there's certain little things move around, and I'm always gifted something with bees, whether it's a mug or I have a beautiful beehive there, all these little things. And it's funny, particularly with young people, when I did see them face to face, they loved coming into what they call the beehive, you know, so it was always easy. It was something to kind of break the ice and have a little chit chat about. And now it's like, they know when they see me that that's where they're coming into. They feel like they're coming into that space.
Yeah, that's
it's really good. Yeah,
what a
it's
gift
great.
your parents gave you to have a name like Bee. And for you, they could never have imagined that, you know, some 20, 30 years later, you would turn it into a brand and create a beehive, a safe space for children. And you've really embraced the busy bee type philosophy, haven't you?
Oh, I absolutely have. And it's nearly like you might say to yourself, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy saying that you're a busy bee? But I do like the busyness that's in my life, but I also like the balance, you know, and that has taken me probably, you know, consistently always focusing on where do I bring balance? And because I would have in the past had high energy, and then hit the wall, and I could hit the wall for 2 days and not be able to do anything, and then high energy, and then a wall again. Whereas now it's like, it's okay to balance that. I'm really busy this week. As you said, you know, being involved in the community, I'm emceeing our annual fundraiser fashion show tomorrow evening in our local theatre for our local Vincent de Paul, and we do that every year, and it's a huge event, and it's hugely supported by the community. But it's busy. We prepare that from January, but this week in particular is busy, and I'm trying to fit my clients around that and my other appointments around that. But then I have boxed off certain times in the day that's your switch off time, whether it's a meditation or even watching something on Netflix if you want to, or just relaxing with your dinner. It's just like making sure that you have that balance time. It's really important for me to do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the things, and that's why I like the transpersonal coaching questions, because they focus on the person as opposed to the problem, and getting people or my guests to share what do they do outside of work to protect themselves, to nurture themselves, to ground themselves is really important, because you know, you've got to walk the walk, as you say, and I can relate. I was very much crash and burn, high energy, like the Duracell bunny. People would say, you know, God, you walk fast, you talk fast, you do everything fast. But they didn't know that maybe at the weekend I was crashing and burning and spending 2 days in bed with a book, thinking, oh, I can't be bothered to get dressed, I can't be bothered to do anything. And then I was ready to go again on Monday morning. And that's not sustainable. I mean, I hit 60 last year.
Wow.
It's just
fantastic.
not.
You look fabulous.
Thank you. It's not sustainable. So I'm now, and particularly since I trained as a mindfulness meditation teacher since I last saw you. So I've been doing the weekly meditations for the IAPC&M, I think for 2 years now. Every Wednesday, it's the call before this call. Get off the hamster wheel, have half an hour stillness, and get intimate with yourself again. So I'm now much more of a proponent of slow living. I'm trying to be a minimalist and just sort of, what do they say? Row with one breath. So if you're driving, just drive. If you're eating, just eat. If you're washing the dishes, just wash the dishes. You know, you don't have to be multitasking 24/7, because it's exhausting. So it's nice to hear that you've got that sanctuary and safe space, and you take time out as well.
It's vitally important. And with all the busyness that goes on both personally and professionally, you know, we can't sustain always giving of ourselves, of our energy, and particularly as well from a coaching perspective. I want to be ready for my clients. I want to be in the space that I'm able to, not drained, not exhausted, not going, oh my God, I've got to do this. It's really important, isn't it, to have that? And for me, you know, time management is key. And yes, it's about doing it with ease, not rigidly. You know, when I ask the question, this is one of my favorite questions, whether I'm with a group of people and even with the children who are 11, not just 15 or 17 in a group, in a class situation. When I ask them, how many hours do we have in a week? Everybody's like going, and of course the quick thinking mathematicians in the class will come straight back and go 168 hours B, and I'm like, wow, brilliant. But why is it that 90, well, I don't know how much percent, I'm only guessing, but no, I've never met anybody who knows the answer to that straight away without thinking. And I'm like, why do we go day to day and not actually realize how much time that we do have and how to use it productively? And even doing nothing productively is very important.
Yeah. I Thich Nhat Hanh, who he was the Buddhist, Vietnamese Buddhist monk for Plum Village. He said, doing nothing is doing something.
Yeah.
And we don't realize time is a currency.
Yes.
So children and adolescents, they just see their whole life stretched out in front of them. But what are some of the challenges that you are hearing and seeing with the younger generation, who are our future leaders? So I'm so pleased they've got somebody like you in their dream team. But what are the things that you're supporting them with?
So when I initially started PAL's program, my real aim to that was I was meeting clients who were in their maybe 40s and 50s, who were feeling very negative in their thought process, who were not feeling confident, hadn't really got great belief in themselves, and were fearful about making changes or decisions. And I know I may have been the very same had I not gone through my own personal life challenges and changes and embracing coaching on a personal level, and then obviously moving into professional. And I thought, this is crazy. How can I help people get to avoid getting to 40 or 50 and still having this challenge? So I started thinking if I could work with people when they were younger, in particular 10 or 15 years ago, it was more around the 15, 16-year age group, because in our educational system here, Dawn, we have what we call a transition year. And in that transition year, it's a year away from state exams. And it's a very focused year on building their self-confidence, building their life skills. And I thought, that's where I need to go. So that's where I started. And what I've discovered in the last 2 or 3 years, and particularly even in the last 6 months, because the post-COVID impact of getting into schools has been slow to start back up again, you know, because it's like kind of dealing with this mad panic and trying to line everything back up again. I'm now working more and more with the 5th and 6th class age group, which are 11 and 12-year-olds. And when I work with the transition year age group now, I'm realizing, wow, we're nearly too late at 15 and 16.
Okay. Yeah.
Compared to what I felt 10 years ago.
Yeah, because the children are maturing faster because of social media, I presume.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, but there's also a lot of unnecessary. Now, I know I say this because I'm aware of it, but there's a lot of unnecessary pressure and stress on young people now from all aspects, whether it's, you know, everybody's trying to do their best. I've relaunched my parents' talk. So in the evening, if schools have availability, I come in and do a parents' talk. Now, it's really well placed if I've already been in the school for the 4-week program with the children. And most of the parents, when it happens like that, they're like, oh, we had to come. You know, my daughter said, B is in the school on Tuesday night. And I would introduce myself and they'd say, oh, no, we know all about you. Or we know about the gratitude journal. We know about B. We know your son is living in Australia. I mean, they know everything. Because of the engagement with the young people in the classroom, it's just meeting them where they're at. Yeah. And I know that can be different, you know, because I'm not their teacher. I'm not with them all the time. Yeah. But building that rapport with them, they're starting to tell you things like they're not sleeping well because they're worried. They're worried about simple things. What somebody may have said to them in the now they're not small things for a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old. You know, they're small things for us when we hear them. But what I love to help them with is just changing their mindset into, how would you like to feel? Because one of the biggest things they're feeling, I'll ask the question, how does everybody feel today? Or what was the first thing you thought of when you woke up this morning? How did you feel when you woke up this morning? Can you guess, Dawn, what is the top feeling of every young person that I ask? Because they all say the same thing.
That they're anxious.
Well, the first thing they say is that they're tired.
Oh.
They're
tired. Not getting enough sleep.
They're not getting enough sleep. They're tired. Their energy is right down there. And I'm like, particularly to 11 and 12-year-olds, like they're going to be in school till they're 18, maybe. So
and is that because they're staying up too late, B? Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, they're staying up late. Now, they might not have a device like a phone, but they might have an iPad, or they might, there's access to all of these things that even parents are trying to, I know, control, and it's a huge thing now. But what they're doing is, and this is why the time management works really well when I ask them that question, because I ask them how many hours do they think they're in school, and they all say 100 out of the 168. I'm like, okay, what time do you start at? What time do you leave? And we establish it's about 34 hours. Then they tell me they have to sleep. But when we have this conversation, I say, oh, so does everybody go to bed at 8 o'clock? And what time? Yes. Oh, well, no. Now we're starting to really see where the time is going and why they're tired and why they're not going to sleep till late. So I'd say, do you watch something on YouTube or TikTok? And they'd say, oh, yeah. And I'd say, for 5 minutes, is it just one video? And then it's like, oh, well, no. Then we go on to another one. And then they realize there might be 2 hours on YouTube.
So they're identifying their time vampires.
Yeah. And when we look at that, I'd say, you've got another maybe, 8 years in school. Would you like to wake up every day for the next 8 years feeling as exhausted as you tell me you are today?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, no. And I said, well, we can change this. How would you like to feel? If you could wake up tomorrow morning and you've chosen how you would like to feel, what would you like? How would you like to feel? And it's funny, they don't say energized or motivated first. They come to that, but they say happy. And I think, and even parents and adults, when I ask them, happy just seems to be such a far-fetched feeling. And that if we aim for happiness, then everything's going to be okay. When I'm happy, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And it's just changing their view. It's just looking at it differently and say, okay, so what would make you feel happy? Maybe to be energized, motivated, excited. And they look at me sometimes like, and that's why I love doing a 4-week program, because the first day they're like, we don't know where she's after landing from. Yeah. What is she on? By second week and third week, they're like, B, I woke up this morning and I felt really, really good. And I was so happy that you were coming in today. And that's all it takes, Dawn, is to just press pause and turn it around.
Yeah.
But that takes
practice. Everybody could know that happiness is within. It's not some far off thing. It's nothing to aspire to. We all can have that choice, and we can wake up feeling grumpy because we're tired. But even just saying to ourselves, do I want to be grumpy for the next hour, or do I want to be happy? Okay, grab my meditation or my gratitude journal. Let's find something to be happy and grateful for, and then you change your mindset.
Exactly. And I developed.
Sorry, go on.
I developed 3 questions that came to me while I was doing a lot of Facebook Lives in a private group over lockdown, and just kind of keeping myself going was the main thing, and then it actually others. And the 3 questions form probably the basis of a lot of what I do, whether it's one-to-one or in groups. And the first question is, how do I feel right now? And the second question is, how would I like to feel right now? And the third question is, what do I need right now? And it just brings everything to right now, because sometimes the need is so far away. Like, I want to have this job, and I want to be in that house, and I want to be finish school and I want to be, and that's not going to happen now. What do you need now in order to be ready to do whatever it is that you want to do in the future?
Yeah, that is beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. That formed the basis of my TEDx talk, actually.
Yes, of course. I remember your gosh, you were brave.
Oh, I was brave. Oh, I know now I was brave. At the time, I was like, oh my God, what have I signed up for?
Yeah,
It was quite
remember your talk.
yes.
And it's very rigorous process. So yeah, I want to come back to your TED talk. The only thing I was going to say to you, if you haven't come across Brené Brown's work, the Atlas of the Heart, she said, it came out last year, I think, and I think it's a book that all coaches need to read, because typically, she said, when she did her research, and she's an expert in vulnerability, people were happy, sad, or angry. And she said there's something like 87 different emotions, and yet we're not tapped into them. And as practitioners, we need to understand what it means when somebody says, I'm sad, angry, or happy. Their definition is not the same as ours. And it could be a number of words that would be more apt than happy, angry, or sad. But typically, that's all the emotional range that people thought that they had. So if you haven't come across that book, I highly recommend it. And also, she brings it to life in some podcasts.
That's right. That's where I heard her talking about it. Actually, was on a podcast. I love her voice. I love listening to her. She's very easy to listen to. Yeah, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. But I must read that book, because I think, you know, some of the questions that I asked during some of the Facebook Lives over lockdown, I discovered it just came as we were growing and going through the experiences week by week. But it was digging a little deeper into, as you say, the emotion under the emotion, you know, the feeling under that. Where did it come from? Yeah, so it's really powerful to go that little bit deeper in.
Yes, peeling the layers of the onion, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I do want to talk to you about the TED Talk, but I'm conscious of the time.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw you a challenge if you're interested.
Are you telling me we're finished already? Oh my God.
Our time is more or less up. Yes. I would really appreciate it if you would be interested. I know you've done masterclasses before, but do a masterclass for us on how to nominate yourself for a TED Talk, what's involved, and how to prepare for one, how to manage your nerves, and what happens afterwards. That would be
love to do that.
TED. Great. Okay. So I know Lisa is preparing the masterclass schedule for June to December now. So let's make that happen.
Yes, I'd be delighted to. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So let me just check. Oh, we have a question for B. For a coach who's coaching clients with different problems and issues every day, how must she manage her time? Oh, so this is from a coach to a coach. For a coach who's coaching clients, how do you fit it all in? How do you manage your time?
Okay, well, there we were talking about time management, and the experience I had 5 years ago running for the local election, I thought I knew time management before that happened. That was a really great learning experience for me, to realize how much you can actually get into 15-minute slots. And in that time, I had to actually not just go hour by hour, I had to go 15 minutes by 15 minutes by 15 minutes. So it's not about being too intense with this, but it's like my diary is always blocked off into the times that everything should be, including what I call golden time, which is my downtime. It's like nothing else goes in there. Well, absolutely nothing. It's non-negotiable. Nothing goes in there. So when I'm in my time zone for clients, maybe it's like giving a gap between an appointment. Is that maybe what they're asking as well? There is time to cleanse, regroup, ground yourself, and then switch into the next client. But I wouldn't have too many clients in a day. I make sure that, you know, and some weeks I might give myself a full day that it's other work I do and not seeing clients as well.
I would concur with that. I'm an old-fashioned girl. I still work with a Filofax, and I write everything down, and I run a highlighter through it.
Me
And
too.
I can see at a glance, hour by hour, by just looking at the color, whether
Yeah,
it's a work, whether it's paid, whether it's volunteer, whether it's study,
brilliant,
all of that sort of
brilliant.
thing.
Yeah,
And
and the
my answer to that question would also be, if you're fortunate enough to have back-to-back clients, avoid back-to-back work. You have to have some space for
yeah,
self-reflection of the call, some time for yourself, a cup of
yeah,
tea, a walk around the block. So, like you, I tend to have 2 really busy days where I fit a lot in.
yeah,
But there are other times where I like to spread it out over the week so I don't have that crash and burn. I
yeah,
think that's what we're getting to.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and a quick question just around, you've explained how you got into coaching children,
Hmm.
but how important was it to become accredited as a coach? You're a master coach now, but when did you get accredited and why?
That's a great question, because I was actually going to say before we left, it's so important to have your accreditation. It's so important for a couple of reasons. One, as we know, the industry isn't regulated, so it's really important to have the backing of your code of ethics and everything that the IAPC&M provide. Plus, as you've mentioned, the support of having that organization behind you if you have any questions. Never mind the beautiful, brilliant PR opportunities, the CPD opportunities. But for me, it gives me credit. There's credit behind what I do because I am accredited with the IAPC&M. So I think anybody who's nervous about it, and you will remember me going through my master coach accreditation process. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And then I worried about doing a TEDx talk after doing that experience. But it was, it wasn't easy. But anything that you really want to do and have a purpose for doing it, you will manage it and you will do it. As David always says, start or has on his emails, start with the end in mind. And that's a great way to look at it. So if somebody wants to develop their coaching business, be taken seriously, to be able to stand up in front of a group of people and have the authenticity about what you're doing and the training and what you're doing and the knowledge and what you're doing and the continued professional development, it's really important to be accredited.
And how important is it to the schools that you support? I mean, do they even care, or do they ask, are you accredited? Do they just assume that you're accredited until there's a problem?
Well, I always make sure in any of my correspondence with schools that I mention I'm accredited with the IAPC&M. I have my
No.
accredited
Logo.
what is the word we use on that
Logo.
that's always part of everything that I do. So that's really
You're
important.
very upfront with it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really important as well because and having your GDPR and your coaching agreements and all of those things are really important. There's never a need for them until there's a need for them, and if you don't have them, that's when you realize you're missing them.
Yeah, that's a really good quote, actually. I'm going to quote you on that.
Yes,
So
thank you.
I have a book recommendation for you with you talking about children. I don't know if
Yes.
I'm going to turn off my background.
Yeah.
I love this book and I use it a lot.
Kindness. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, the illustration on that is fabulous.
The illustrations are beautiful, yes. And it's for children. It's a spiritual book, obviously, but there's some wonderful quotes
Yes.
and lots of pictures
Oh,
about
that's
all the different
fabulous.
animals that are out there. But it's how to deal with their anger, their frustration, etc. And I think if you haven't come across this book, you might like it and find it's a
Yeah,
really useful
I
tool for you.
will. Yeah, definitely. And just in
Okay,
saying that with
yes,
the children, it's really important for them to know it's okay to feel angry. It's okay to
of
feel
course.
sad. All
Yeah.
of those things are important, but it's what you do with them that makes the difference.
I think it's far more damaging
Mm,
uh, to repress natural emotions. We
yeah,
need to be able to say to children, I understand you're feeling angry. It's
yeah,
healthy. It's how
yes,
you channel it,
yeah,
but better out than in for sure.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
Um,
It's been
so
amazing.
sorry, a thought came back to me with regard to that question, time management. You said you work in little batches. There's a
Yes.
method called the Pomodoro method. Ruby is very passionate about it. She used to be our head of CPD. And she works in batches of 20 minutes, and it's called the Pomodoro method. So whoever asked that question, you can Google Pomodoro method, and that will explain it in a lot more detail. But as we're out of time and we're over time, I know you're super busy, Bea, just give us a quick overview, please. If somebody wants to hire you as a coach or is a parent concerned about a child, apart from the IAPC&M directory, how do they get in touch with you? And what, if anything, have you got coming up in terms of your next cohort for PALS or whatever you've got going on?
Thank you. I'm in local schools. Actually, would you believe I've been doing a lot of work in Gael schools. Now, I do not speak Oscailga. My daughter, a school teacher, is saying to me, Mammy, you should learn a few words. But I think in particular, the students like to have one break in an English speaking class. So they seem to be really open and wanting to provide this for their children. And then also the parents talk. So the launching of the parents talk has been really powerful with engaging parents. Again, it's about them. It's not necessarily about the students, but it's allowing them the space. So PALS program, palsprogram.ie is my website. I do have another website that's in operation at the moment. I have somebody working. Because I do so many things, Dawn, we're trying to see how do we get this into just one place to go to. Instagram, Facebook, What Will Be with Bea, PALS program is all on both of them, and LinkedIn. Obviously, I'm there, Bea Flanagan. So if there's any questions, my numbers and my email addresses are all on that. If there's any questions about anything, I am delighted to answer them, speak, and sometimes even going into schools just to meet with the principal or the deputy principal, just to give them a view of who I am and a little bit more insight. But a lot of the work for me now is coming from referral, which is really, really good, because it's one school telling another school, telling another school. And my ideal is to have primary schools meeting the students again in secondary school and in third level, which I have done along the way. And just the last bit, I was in a secondary school recently and the teacher walked in and I looked at the teacher and I said, do you mind if I share with the class how I know you? She said, absolutely, Bea. She was a student in transition year in PALS. And I thought, okay, that's bringing it full circle for me.
It is. What makes you feel older that you know.
Oh, absolutely. Really I'm looking at the teachers. They look like the students. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. And you know what makes me feel older is that the last time I spoke to you, your son wasn't in Australia and your daughter wasn't in schools.
The school teacher, I know. Well, Lucy's nearly
teenagers, I think.
Yeah, Lucy's nearly 26 and Ryan is 23. It's phenomenal.
Is it really been that long? Well, I know it's been a couple of years, but I never would have thought it was that long since we spoke.
Yeah. Well, I think we've always emailed and connected that way, but I mean, to have a face-to-face conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. This has been amazing. You're so kind. I appreciate it.
You're absolutely welcome. It's a pleasure. Please do engage on all the social media platforms so that if anybody drops in a comment or a question, you can. Obviously, you can contact Bea and I through the contact form on the IAPC&M website anyway. So I'm going to let you go. We've run over a little bit. I am so sorry, but I could talk to you.
That's okay. I'm sorry. we could talk for hours, I know, Dawn.
We could, and it's not just the Irish, what do they call it? Baloney?
The Blarney. Yeah.
But we could just talk for a long time anyway, because we're on the same pathway, aren't we?
Yeah, so absolutely. Always
have been. If anybody wants to find out more about Bea, in the blog, in the IAPC&M blog search button, if you put Bea's name, her previous masterclasses will come up as well. So you can find out more about her work there and you know, add that to your CPD log. So thank you, Bea. It's a pleasure as usual. And you take care, and I will tune in again for your TED Talk at some point.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Have a lovely day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.